Okay, Dewey Jenkins present.
Fran, are you in? You have to put on, yeah. Sound.
Pete Healy present.
Meg
Yes.
Wheeler present.
Rob Hillman present.
Fran, can you hear us?
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, present. Great. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Fantastic. We're all here. Really good. Okay. So the first order of business is the annual committee reorganization. So it's been a really interesting year being your chair. But I am just finishing out my last term. That means in May or June. When do we get a new advisory person? Hopefully.
Probably June or July.
Yeah. Okay. So that would be when I retire from the board. So we need now somebody who would be in the chair seat for at least that year. So that wouldn't be me. Because it's already February. So we need nominations here for a chair for the advisory. And it's a very good job. It keeps you on your toes and staying on top of things. And I have abbreviation of the mini version of Robert's Rules in case anyone need to look at that, or you can get that on Amazon. And so those are things, or I could be willing to help people through it. But anyway, nominations for Fran?
I nominate Mary McGoldrick.
Okay. Is there a second to that nomination?
I'll second that.
Okay. Yes, Mary?
I would like to nominate Rob Hillman.
Okay.
I'll second it.
And there's a second to that. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay, so then we will first take the first nomination of Mary. I guess that's how we do it, right? Because we haven't ever had two people nominated that I recall. But I guess we have a vote for Mary. And or do you have any comments, Mary? Do you want to say before we have the vote or something?
I appreciate the nomination. I would prefer to be a wingman, and I think Rob would be a fabulous chair, and I would be happy to be his first assistant.
Okay.
Case. So thank you very much.
Okay, so then so I am assuming then you want us to go ahead and you don't then want to run for chair. You want us to bring the election to the next person in line. That would be Rob, the vote. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then we have, is there a motion to, then we made the motion. We have two motions with Rob, so let's vote. Okay, then all in favor of Rob Hillman being chair of the advisory board?
I have a question, Helene.
Yes.
Just because you did ask me if I had any comments, I just thought perhaps we should see if Rob.
Oh, right, exactly. Of course. Do you have any comments, Rob? You accept the nomination.
What was it? Sherman said the opposite of if nominated, I will run. If elected, I will serve. So
Okay, that's good. Okay, I think, and is that means that that's how you think that's what you're doing? Okay, you and Sherman are on the same wavelength. Is that what you're implying? Good. Okay, so then we are voting for Robert Hillman as chair. So I'll go through. All in favor of, we'll take the roll call vote. Well, just, can we raise hands? Is that what we can do?
Sure.
Yep.
You have to do a roll call. Yes.
Yeah,
So
Zoom.
all in favor of Mary McGoldrick. So we're going to, his nomination. So you say aye, nay, or pass.
I thought we withdrew Mary's
Yes,
nomination.
we did. So she's in the camera as the first to vote.
So am I voting
We're voting for Rob Hillman for chair.
Mary McGoldrick is voting yes for Rob Hillman's nomination.
Okay, Lee?
Lee Jenkins, Rob Harriman.
Okay. Jean?
Gina Stino, aye for Rob
Okay.
Hillman.
Yes, you just say aye if you want Rob Hillman to be chair. You could say yes, or you could say yay or nay, or you could abstain. Fran Collins.
Aye, for Rob Hillman.
Meg?
Meg Wheeler, aye.
Jean?
Jean Haley Dippold, aye, but only if Rob will cut a swath to Atlanta, Georgia.
What if he would
From
want?
Atlanta to Savannah, but sure, absolutely, I'm all in.
Sherman reference.
I like it.
Okay, and Helene Levi. So that's unanimous.
Rob needs.
So Rob, believe it or not, you
Well-
assume, yes, it's 8-0, totally unanimous.
Rob, you voted for yourself, right? Just for the record?
I guess I did, yes. Rob Hillman, aye.
Yeah, because he did say he would
Thank
serve
you. Yeah.
if elected. So yes. So that would be 8-0. So now, Rob, believe it or not, you take over. The gavel is here at my house. And after COVID, when we meet, I will, or you could come over and pick it up with mask on if you so want it in your presence.
I've never had a gavel, so maybe I will. But
Yes.
I've also never seen it needed to be used, so that's good.
Correct. In school board, it has been used. I use the gavel in school board, as Jean and I know. But I've never had to use it in advisory. But it could be fun for you to have it at your house. So just ring me up and we'll find a time for you to pick it up.
Well, thank you.
And
Okay.
congratulations, Robert.
Thank you very much. Thank you for the people who said nice things about me. Couple of things. Well,
You have the agenda, right, Robert?
yes, I do. I have it in front of me. Thanks very much. I mean, obviously, I'll just say one thing and then jump right into business. I obviously have my own conception of Robert's Rules of Order. We'll see how that goes. No, thank you very much. I'll try and live up to your confidence. Fran.
We have to elect a vice chairman?
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Okay.
But and I'll do that. Before we do, I just wanted to, I think on behalf of all the members of the advisory committee, thank Helene for her hard work over since John stepped aside. We really appreciate it. I think we've been well taken care for and well prepped, and I appreciate her preparation as her vice chair. And that brings us to the next order of business. We need to elect a vice chair. So I will open the floor for nominations.
Mary
Lee?
McGoldrick.
Mary McGoldrick has been nominated. Are there any other nominations? Fran Collins seconds. Are there any other nominations? Hearing none. Mary, I think you've already expressed a willingness to serve. So I think before you think about that further, we should vote. I'll call the roll. I figured I'll just run it down alphabetically. So an aye vote is in favor of Mary being elected vice chair of the advisory committee. Jean?
Aye.
Fran?
Aye.
Jean?
Aye.
Oh, two Jeans. Uh-oh.
Aye.
I'll have
Mine
to work that out.
There you go.
I'm sorry?
My
Aye.
last name starts with A,
We'll
so
figure it out. That's right. Lee?
Aye. Lee Jenkins.
Lean?
Most definitely.
Mary?
Aye.
Meg?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye as well. So the ayes have it. Mary, thanks for stepping up. We'll talk about ways to make sure that we stay connected and keep the wheels of committee work rolling. Good. All right. and we're on schedule. So the next item on the agenda is a financial update, the fiscal year budget through the end of December 20, and COVID grant funding. Mary,
I have a question.
your hand is up.
Point, do we do any new subcommittee or liaison assignments that we have? Is that something that we do now, or?
That's a good question. I mean, generally, that's been part of the reorganization process.
Yes.
What I don't have, and perhaps in an exercise of looking forward, should have, is a list of what those assignments are. So why don't we, before we go forward, Chris, do you, I mean, I can probably name them, but what's the set of liaisons?
I mean, it does, it can vary depending on the board's, desires or wishes, but you tend to have somebody for schools. You tend to have somebody for the sewer and water commissions. You tend to have somebody for public works, and some of the other big departments. Sometimes yes, sometimes no, but definitely those big ones. And then occasionally there's some of the other committees that are acting, like capital. Someone usually goes to capital. Somebody usually goes to the select board.
Don't forget OPEB, Chris.
Yes.
If we think we're having a meeting, I don't know when our next meeting is scheduled. I wasn't able to attend the last one. We could distribute the current assignments. People could not comment about them, and then we could bring it up at the next meeting, if that seems to make sense.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I like that.
That's exactly what I was. That's what I was going to suggest as well. So, does that list exist outside of people's sort of memory and understanding? I don't know that I've ever actually seen it written down, but if it does, if somebody could forward it to Mary and I, and perhaps copy Chris, unless Chris is going to be the source of it, and then we'll have it circulated prior to the next meeting, and people should consider, what it is that they, which committees and departments they would like to liaise with. Does that make sense, Mary?
Yeah, I think that's great. And we can also include on that list the days that those other, whether it's capital budget or school committee or selectmen meet, so people have a sense of what their availability is.
And the list, I believe the list is in one of our old minutes.
I have it, Rob, so I can forward that to you.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Okay, we'll make sure that it gets out to everyone, prior to the next meeting, and that it's on the agenda for the next meeting right at the outset, and we'll get it done. Okay, before we do finances, is there anything else that I've managed to overlook in my first 5 minutes? Nope, we're good. Chris and Don primarily, I guess, the budget status and COVID grant funding.
All right. Congratulations, Rob. Good evening, everyone.
And Mary, congratulations to you.
Mary, yeah.
And thank you again, Helene, very much.
Oh, you're welcome.
So I'm going to go through my brief update. As I mentioned at the Board of Selectmen meeting, doing these monthly has been very beneficial, I feel like, as I don't have to go through the whole gauntlet, kind of updating everybody as where we're at quarterly or even longer. So I feel this will be pretty brief, and I guess we'll start with the general fund, Chris. We're right on target for revenues, 50.5%. All our local receipts, except for motor vehicle, are meeting or exceeding our projections through 6 months. And the only reason I note motor vehicle is not meeting or exceeding is just because of the timing of our commitment. Our large commitment comes in February, which we have received. Last year, it was about 1.4 million. This year, about 1.35. So we dropped about 40 or 50,000, which, based on the uncertain times we're in, is actually pretty reasonable. That's only 2.8% lower than last year. And as we know, we've decreased our budgeted estimates for motor vehicle 10% for FY21. So we'll have a number of other smaller commitments throughout the year as more motor vehicles are purchased and traded in. But to me, seeing that commitment not really vary much from the prior year is a good indicator on how we'll look for the rest of the year on motor vehicle excise. Otherwise, everything is looking fine on the revenue side. The expenditure side of the budget, we're 49.8% total spent. Looking at the individual department budgets, I'm not seeing anything stick out, anything to be alarmed with at this point. Everybody is doing fine and within the budget we've proposed. Public safety, you will see a little bit higher percentage spent, and that's really due to COVID. So I'll just pivot to the COVID now because most of it is in the general fund. Within that public safety line, within emergency management, is $370,000 year to date of expenses. And eventually, once the year goes through and we have hopefully a better idea of FEMA, I will reclass those expenses to either a CARES or a COVID grant by June 30. But for now, just ease of tracking and posting in one specific area, that's where it lives, is within emergency management. But that money will be reclassed at one point. So it's not a permanent, when you look at it, we're not really in a deficit or overspent. It's just a matter of timing. To date, we've spent about $800,000. Our allotment from the state was $750,000. Now, when I say we've spent $805,000, that is going to be split between the two grants. We've submitted multiple applications to FEMA, and as most of you may know, snowstorms, we didn't receive money from snowstorms for 3 years. So it could be, we could get a receipt between now and June 30th, or we may not. So I'm just hoping to find out between now and June 30th, kind of where we're at. If not, I'm just going to have to allocate the FEMA related expenses that we submitted to the various grants at June 30th. So basically what that means is 805, we should at least see probably another 100 or 150 from FEMA. So we have plenty of money from now until June to continue with our COVID efforts. And just in anticipation, this money is not related to any vaccination efforts that the town will be going through. That's totally separate, and we're learning more and more as we go through. So there'll be various funding sources from that as well, FEMA, and I believe some direct reimbursements based on insurance. So that's where we're at with the general fund. I'd love to take any questions if you have them.
I thought I saw Gene Dippold's hand first and earlier. Gene?
So Don, you actually answered some of the questions I had about timing of reimbursement with FEMA, but do you have any sense, and I know that it's really hard because there's a whole bunch of stuff out there with the upcoming federal legislation, hopefully on the horizon, but do you have any sense of costs relating to the vaccination efforts that Cohasset may or may not be undertaking? I mean, I know it's all so up in the air in terms of where everything is going, but it strikes me that there is a demand for Cohasset to take on some of those vaccination efforts locally instead of, for example, going to Fenway or Gillette. And I'm just not sure what that means as a cost issue for the town.
So I see Chris getting ready to speak. I'll let him.
Yeah, so it's
on
really
that
not,
first, and then I'll chime in.
It's really not a cost issue, Gene. It's an operational issue. So you may have seen, we've spun out reports. We actually, when we did the first responders last month, created a clinic model where we could do 2 people in a clinic over 4 hours. We staffed it, we modeled it, and that was based on the state saying, hey, if you're going to go in, you got to go in the whole time. So we did the first responders. We partnered with 4 other towns to do that, and then we're going to go off on our own. And they changed this model, and they decided that local communities, and I'm sure you've seen this, right, in the press, they're giving us 100 doses a week. That's it. So that is where we find ourselves. So this week is our first 75 plus. That's where we're up to. We have some final phase 1 folks, home health aides, people who are, like Colleen and others, who do work with folks in a non-hospital setting, and then some other folks in town, some other first responder type folks in town, and then 75 plus. That's this week. We're also doing folks at 60 Elmore, 75 plus, the affordable senior housing. We'll do more next week, and we'll do more the week after. And we've advocated, I've sent a letter out to our state rep and senator saying, hey, we're ready. And again, even if you want to make me, right, or any of us who are, sub 65, travel off to Foxborough, fine, okay? But folks who are older and it's middle of winter, what the heck are we doing making them go to Foxborough? Well, you got to talk to Governor Baker about that. So operationally, that's where we are prepared to do more. And from a funding point of view, it's been a little fuzzy, to be honest with you, Gene. There's been a claim that we'll get so much per shot that we actually put in people's arms. We've gotten no literal written confirmation of that. It's been verbalized again and again on calls. We haven't seen any of that yet, by the way, to be clear. So we've done a bunch of, we're actually doing the second round of first responders next week. So the first round of second shots are next week for first responders. So we're hoping that's going to happen. So we modeled our costs because we're using school nurses and we have to pay them. We're going to use our paramedics. They've been because you have to have a waiting area after this in case there's a reaction, because it's a very novel vaccine, it's a novel virus. So we have to have a spun up set of paramedics there. And so between the first responders and the nurses, there's some costs there. So we're trying to keep the cost minimal. So we were prepared to do, 600 plus a week at least. Mm-hmm. And we're just not able, and if we had the vaccine, as I said this in the letter, I don't know if you saw it, it was posted up last week. We could have had all of our 75 plus year olds in town done in a week. Mm-hmm. Instead, it's going to take us a month. Mm-hmm. Now that's not okay. I do know some folks have gone to Foxborough. I know there's a Reggie Lewis Center opening in Boston. And did you go to Foxborough, Fran?
We're going Monday. Gail and I got an appointment. We're going Monday.
Okay, so unfortunately, that's way above my pay grade, I'm afraid, as to how those decisions have been made.
Yeah.
The ones we are able to do, we believe the state is committed to giving us some money per shot.
All right, thanks, Chris.
And actually, FEMA is committed to 100% reimbursement for vaccination clinics. So I was just on a webinar today with the folks from FEMA. They will reimburse the town up 100% for eligible costs. So overtime, cost setting up the clinics, police details, things of that nature. And then basically, as we learn more about any potential reimbursements from the insurance, as Chris mentioned, basically what they'll require is us to report to FEMA. If we got $10,000 from insurance carriers, then our FEMA reimbursement would be, our expenses less that 10,000. So we'll just have to report what we get from them. So we're not technically double dipping.
Yeah, you have to audit.
Yep.
Yeah.
So we'll definitely be 100% reimbursed. Again, with FEMA, the timing, how long it could take, who knows? So basically the plan is kind of like what we've been doing with the COVID money. I created another line item within the emergency management budget specifically for COVID vaccination. All of our costs will be categorized there. So it'll be easy for reporting and doing our submissions to FEMA and just tracking our costs in one central location. Mm-hmm. So we'll be on top of it as we go through this process.
Mm-hmm. Other questions? Lee? You're muted. Lee, you're muted.
Sorry about that. Don, how do you figure the 2.5 every year to get our total amount of money we're allowed to tax the taxpayer on land tax? How do you figure it? 2.5.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So this is not related to COVID. Okay.
No. Oh, that's right.
Okay. Sorry. You take the tax levy from the prior year.
No.
and you add 2.5% to that number.
Okay.
And that's how you come up with tax levy.
And
Plus,
yeah.
so it's the base tax levy plus 2.5%, plus an estimate for new growth, plus what we have for the portion of excluded debt payments for that year. That totals your total tax levy, and then is allocated to residents based on the overall property assessment divided by the total assessed amount in town. And that's how you get your property tax, and that's how you calculate 2.5%.
Does the state come in and check that?
I'm sorry, you cut out. I couldn't.
Does the state come in and check that every year?
Yeah, oh yeah, we go through a whole process. The assessor's office has to submit their calculations to the state. We do a whole comprehensive submission called a tax recap that includes all of our revenues based on our town meeting votes and how the tax levy is computed and allocated. It's all reviewed.
So in essence, everybody in town, in theory, should go up 2.5%, correct?
No.
In theory, no?
Nope. No. So it's based on value. So if your I'm just making up stuff here, right? If your property value doubled, your taxes are probably going to go up more than 2.5%. But then on another end, somebody's property tax may go down.
That's correct. Okay.
All right. Other questions?
All right. Chris, do you mind pulling up sewer?
Conceptually, be careful with that.
So water and sewer are doing very well this year on the revenue side, due to higher water usage, people being at home during the pandemic. We've been seeing better than expected numbers in both funds. As you can see within the sewer department, our user charges are already at 56.5% collected through December. Overall, we're at 55.4%, which is well ahead of our target. Usage and our connections have been the big driver for how well we're doing. We're actually, if I look, we are year over year up 284,000, about 26% over last year, which is great. And you can clearly see in the schedule on page 3 that Chris is showing, 13% up on user charges and a huge 277% increase in connections. I believe we had 123,000 or 130,000 collected just last month in November. So those are the big driving forces to how well we're doing on the revenue side. And then looking at the expenditures, overall 62.2% spent. What I look at to really see how we're doing is the general expenses. We're only at 43% spent through December, which I'm definitely happy to see. Sewer has definitely been one of the departments that have been trying to get to be a little bit more conservative in their budgeting. And so far it appears that we've made some efforts and it's working out well. So 43% through December is a great number. And that's really the review there. I just got the commitment for for February, and I did not note the amount. So next month we'll get an update on where we committed for Q3, but I expect those numbers to be up as well. Any questions on sewer?
When you say commitment, Tom, what do you mean exactly?
So basically the total bill for the town, for the residents. So the commitment, the amount that we actually bill out for that quarter. So it might be 450,000 for the quarter that's billed out to all the sewer users in town.
Got it. Okay. Anything further on
I have a
questions? Gina Stino, I see your hand up.
Yes. Obviously, this is my first time through, although I am familiar with the way the budget runs.
Sure.
But I'm just curious, and this is probably more a question for Don and Chris. Can I get a list of what is captured in indirect costs on the water and the sewer?
Yeah,
Seems like a big pot of money and no backup. So I'm just curious what's in those two categories.
indirect costs are calculated annually for the next year. And it's essentially just a transfer from water and sewer respectively into the general fund to essentially pay for costs for the portion of departments that are working and essentially providing a service, I would say, to water and sewer throughout the year. So a portion of my cost, my salary and benefits.
Administrative costs.
Yep. And then actually, we allocate a portion of the audit. They have some actual expenses based on our Maya property casualty insurance that's in there. That's the bill's actually paid out of the general fund, but we actually have the known amounts in the split, so that gets allocated. We do it basically a year behind. Instead of just trying to project what people's salaries will be, I take a look. So for fiscal 22, I ran all the numbers about a couple weeks ago. So everybody's salary as of right now, our current health insurance rates, and then that's allocated essentially based upon an agreed upon allocation method. So if I do 2 hours a week or an hour a week, we factor that in annually, and then that percentage is factored in as the indirect cost. And then all of that detail is summarized and provided to water and sewer. But I can definitely send you the worksheet. I can send everybody the worksheet for fiscal 22 so you can see how that's determined and calculated, and all of that is shared with both commissions before we finalize the budget.
Great. My question was because obviously there's dam maintenance and gas and chemical costs. That makes sense. But then to have this one large bucket,
Right.
you can't really tell what's in there.
Sure.
So I would appreciate that. Thanks.
Yep.
Great. That's great, Gene. I'd like to see that too. It strikes me as it's akin to the shared expenses that get dealt with in the school budget as well.
Mhm.
And it makes sense to allocate those sorts of expenses across all the various revenue centers. So additional questions for Don? That's good. Anything further on the financial update?
Yeah, let's just run through water real quick.
Right. I knew I forgot one of those inputs.
No, I did start off sewer, just mentioning water and sewer. So again, water based on usage, our user charges are through the roof, which is great. 82% collected.
That's not great.
Well, for the water fund, I know.
I had kids at home. Never mind. Go ahead.
No, I hear you. I probably shouldn't say it's great. I'll make sure I do not say that.
It's good for budget. No, I'm
good for the budget.
I'm with you. Go ahead.
System development, which is our connection fees, consistent with the sewer connections, 204% collected. So those, again, like sewer, are the main drivers for the current revenue surplus that we have based on the 6 month. We're up from last year, about 400,000, almost 16%. And again, you can see that user charges and system development are the big driver there. And then similar to the enterprise fund, the expenditure side, 68.2% overall spent. And again, the reason that I really look at the general expenses as a key indicator of any issues or how well we're doing are because of the timing of debt service and indirects and transfers. Those are normally done either at the beginning of the fiscal year or debt is paid on predetermined schedule. So our general expenses are 41.7% through December. And that wraps up the update.
Fran?
Yeah, the water that we sell to Hingham, how is that administered? Is that a fixed contract for a number of years? Are the rates subject to discussion? And how do we work that?
Yeah, the rates are subject to discussion. It would be based on if we increased our rates. I don't have an answer on what their actual current rate is for their water sale. But that is billed monthly to them based on actual meter usage.
And I was concerned that we might have done something years ago and we made that hookup and then got forgotten about and we're giving them water for nothing at this point, but.
Oh, no. Water department's on top of that.
Good. Other questions about water? Oh, good. Anything else in the financial update, Don? Does that cover it?
That covers it.
The only thing is the state finally did adopt its budget the end of last calendar year. For this fiscal year, they caught up. And the governor also released his budget for this year, at least preliminarily. So I think Don mentioned, we actually didn't talk about this yet, but it's something worth looking at. I mean, again, this is going forward, not so much backward. The state is still grappling with where things are, but they're not in as bad shape as they thought they would be. Income tax and corporate taxes have been okay. Sales and use taxes, not so much. But their revenues have not been quite as bad as they thought they were. And again, we've been held harmless this year. The state hold its local aid level the same from 20 into 21, and we had budgeted less, so that's been helpful to us, COVID aside. So it's been so they're just, you know, the level of uncertainty above us is really still pretty dramatic. We know at the federal level, right? But even at the state level, because the federal, it doesn't even trickle down; it floods down, right? Depending on what the federal government does, the state government does, and then that, even though it's only about what is 8% of our it's 14% of our budget, 12% of our budget, something like that. I forget state aid. Not even that. Yeah. So it's still it's not a killer, but it's real. The money that we get from the state. So that's actually not even that much. I'm sorry. It's only like it's less than, it's like 8%, I think.
I'm sorry, did you say state aid was 8%? Just so I get the.
Yeah, you add it all up. Yeah, I think it's all about. I think it's about 8%, something like that. But I'm riffing off. I'm not looking at the hard numbers, so I could be off here. But it's about when you're all in.
So it's 6.7%.
Yeah. So look at that. So I was off by 25%.
Still, it's swings in that won't be felt quite as hard. So, anything further on the money? Okay. Thanks, Don.
Sure, thank you.
So the next agenda item is annual town meeting calendar preparation. Chris, can you help me out with this?
I can. In fact, I just had it pulled up and I seem to have closed. Where is it? Oh, there it is. We're about to enter. So the select board has set the town meeting date of May 24th. And I believe I circulated the calendar to everybody last month. I can send it to you again. I can put up in fact, I put up on the screen right now if you want. So this is the working calendar for right now.
May 24th. Yeah, okay.
This is so, and we are now here, right? So we're going through budgets internally now, and there's a proposed schedule with a joint presentation of the budget to the select board and the advisor on the 23rd. That's in 3 weeks. We've done this the last couple of years just to make it ease the presentation. The budget book will not be done at that point because the school budget's still to come and all, but we should have the water, the sewer, and the base town budgets all in there. So that kicks off the official review of budgets. At that point, then you have to make some decisions for us about who you want to see and when you want to see them. And then there's a couple of other proposed joint sessions just to, again, for facilitation purposes. Hopefully, because the water and sewer budgets will be in, they should be in now, actually. I haven't seen them yet. Water and sewer are tentatively scheduled for the 9th. Then the 16th, should we have any citizen petitions as of this day, right now, We don't have any. But as you can see, the deadline's not until next month, so there's plenty of time for people to still do them. There's a bunch of things kicking around out there that I can talk about a little bit, but many potential zoning, mostly small, but a lot of potential zoning tweaks. And then there's another proposed joint session 2 weeks later on the 30th to review the capital budget and the CPC proposals. And then the final proposed joint session is April 13th, and that would be with the school budget. Again, it's these are all subject to change. I mean, if you know, folks want to do other meetings or separate them, it's you know, it's up to you. But we've done these last couple of cycles because the meeting is now until May 24th. It's about a month later than normal. Everything's kind of been pulled about a month later, which is good because we literally had no idea what was going on with the state level. So now that we have the state numbers, it's really helped us form a draft 22 budget, which is good. So basically, March and April are really intense times. The final recommendations need to be done by April 20th. So it gives us 2.5 months between now and then. And I don't have a draft warrant, but the next time we meet, I should have a draft warrant for you. So, that's kind of the review schedule. Again, shooting for a May 24th meeting. Now, we're optimistic that we'll get there. You know, obviously, if we're not out of the pandemic, if the vaccinations haven't gone as well as we'd have liked, it may be a little tight. That said, we're hopeful, and we could definitely do something outside in May. So, worst comes to worst, we can be on the field under a big tent and work there. I don't think we want to do a drive-in. I think we want to have a little more it's hard to do a very interactive meeting. It was a great format, but it was also kind of pricey, and I don't know that we want to spend that again, particularly if people can get together. But we have a lot of time between now and then to figure out the logistics of that. So fingers crossed. So that's just kind of where it looks. The first big joint meeting is the 23rd, and then it kind of flows out of there.
Okay, so in terms of additional meetings, when is this committee's next meeting scheduled for?
I don't think you have one yet.
Okay.
The 23rd is one possible.
Well, yeah, certainly. I mean, is there any reason to meet prior to the 23rd?
I don't know if I might have something warrant-wise in 2 weeks. If you want to start looking at that, if you wanted to. Again, I don't want you to have to meet for no particular purpose, but I don't have it. There's no budget transfer request or anything no tapping the fund right now. I think we're, snow. We lucked out this last week, thank God, with the storm. I don't know if we're going to get lucky again, but we didn't get any snow. We've been salting a lot, and the big storm in December definitely was worse than last year. So, but at this point, we don't have to make any reserve fund. We haven't needed any reserve fund transfers. I don't see any. So I'm not seeing anything.
Yeah, Chris, do you anticipate any extra large expenditures this year in the warrant? Anything we should be thinking about or looking about? At this point, town hall or
Yes.
major purchases.
So that is those are the two words actually, town hall. So the town hall building committee will be presenting to the select board on the 16th. You're all welcome to attend or either watch or attend. So that presentation will be on the 16th. They have a plan. They have some current rough numbers they're working with, and they're gonna, I think, present that night and show the plan and then make a presentation on process. I can't tell you for sure if they're gonna look for one bite or two, like if they're gonna go to town meeting in May and say fund the design bid project process so we can then have a bidded project to come back to town meeting with, or they want to go for the whole thing. I don't know at this point, but I do know that they actually have a proposal, a plan built again on the great work that's already been done, that we hope will hopefully we'll move forward. But that's going to be the 16th. So that's the biggest single thing, Fran. In terms of other expenses, the capital plan is being reviewed. There's some very big expenses on the school side, and we're trying to figure out how to structure those. Alumni Field is going to need to be worked on. It's reaching the end of its life. The track in particular, and unfortunately, CPC cannot pay for field turf replacement. It can pay for the track, but not the field turf itself. It's literally written in the law. You can't pay for that stuff. I don't think that, we funded an ambulance last year. I don't think there's any big heavy stuff there. There are a couple of big things on the public works side. We have to replace the salt shed. We've nursed it along as far as we can. If we had a really good snowstorm, it may actually fall right now. So I'm hoping that does not happen. So the salt shed has to be replaced. That's actually just where it is. And we're looking at finding a comprehensive solution for the school bus parking, so they're not nomadic forever. So there's a lot of ongoing conversations about that, and I'm hoping that something we'll have clarified over the next couple of weeks that we'll present through the Select Board and Capital Budget Committee. So there are those are the biggest things, Fran. Budgetarily, no. Budgetarily, it's tight. We've asked every department to put in. I am committed to, I've talked to the Select Board and I've committed not to balance the budget on the backs of employees. The most important resource the town has are the people who work for it across the board. That said, we're trying to squeeze other expenses wherever we can to keep this budget as tight as possible.
Thank Chris.
Mary, did you have a question? You're muted. There you go.
Where do things stand with contract negotiations and things like that on the town side and on the school side? Because that's obviously going to be impacting.
That's a good question. I recommend that by the way, it's one thing you might do, Rob. You might want to have a session. The board might want to go back into an executive session. So I can also talk publicly. The Select Board is going to be on Tuesday ratifying a contract, I hope, with the PBA, the MEPBA, which is the Cohasset Patrol Officers Union. And we have ongoing negotiations with almost every other one. And I'm having a meeting, an internal meeting tomorrow to talk with the schools about process. I've already talked, Pat Sullivan and I've talked about this already. I think we're on the same page. At this point, that's about all I can say publicly. I will be able to say more next week. But we're really focusing on the short term. It's very, the magic 8 ball, cloudy. This year we're kind of, I hate to do this, but we're kind of budgeting year to year. We're looking ahead, but we got through this year and we're working to get through next year. And then the out years are still very cloudy. So, if things clear and the economy gets better and, things work, then 23, 24, 25 will clear up. But at this point, long-term labor deals with money are almost impossible because you can't make a commitment right now beyond 22. Things are looking a little more optimistic at the federal level, but who knows? Does that answer your question a little bit?
Yes, it sounds like it's an executive session conversation now too.
Yeah, I would be happy to circle back. I know we did that update last year, and it's probably time. And there's going to be some contracts for you folks to look at. I think before we get to town meeting, I think you'll be happy. I think we're doing we're definitely looking to be fair and conservative. So if you want to set up a time this month, Rob, for the group, you and Mary, let me know. We can set something up.
We should. I think we should probably get our committee organization nailed down sooner rather than later so that the people who want to connect with those committees can do so while their matters that are coming to town meeting, matters going to be in the budget, are still in process. I know we have a joint meeting and presentation I just saw on the 23rd. Naturally, one of my clients needs me in front of them that night. So Mary, that one may be your opportunity to take the big chair. But I guess the question is, I've got a couple of questions. One is, should we look to try and squeeze in a short meeting with an executive session prior to that, or is there enough to talk about by then? Or should we be looking later that week or the week of March 1st? I tend to think sooner is better, but I mean, and there are such things as very short meetings. There's they're not unlawful as far as I know. So, what, Mary?
Well, we do have, I mean, currently people are assigned to liaisons. So, and just, I mean, just in terms of, I think you and I are on the school side, Rob, and I was kind of keeping track of that. But I think any of these conversations would need to be an executive session anyway, as far as how negotiations are going.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm of a mixed mind. Part of me feels like it might be good to have a meeting on the 18th, just especially to get some feedback and a loop on how the meeting the 16th went with the Board of Selectmen. But I also don't want to add to meetings if it's something we could do the first week in March.
Yeah, I think there are reasons to go either way, but anybody else have any thoughts? We could meet that first week of March, perhaps. Jean, did I see your hand? Go ahead.
Yeah, sorry, I was just unmuting myself. I mean, having watched the school committee meeting yesterday, it seems like there's a lot going on there, on a pretty tight schedule in terms of reopening potentially in March, maybe not, a cost associated with testing teachers, which I'm assuming will probably be de minimis, but it just seems like there's a bunch of wild cards out there. So it may be good to check in briefly in February, in part because I have questions about, and I know this isn't necessarily our direct jurisdiction, but planning for next year, where I think there's a lot of consternation in terms of the high school and middle school's inability to really go back in any sort of full-time way, given the operational constraints they have and what that means for the budget. I don't know those answers at all. I don't think anyone does, but there's a pretty intense developing conversation, I think, surrounding those issues. And I don't know what the impact of that ultimately is fiscally.
Rob, I think it's a good idea.
Yes,
I would just recommend then, I know for me, I could meet at 7:45 p.m. If it's, especially it's going to be a short.
Well,
I can't
that
meet.
leads me to another question that has to do with people's availability and convenience. Thursday nights are actually really bad for me, but I've made arrangements and will continue to make arrangements. But does anyone have, I mean, in just a general sense, preferences regarding, my first year on the committee, we moved meetings back and forth between Wednesday and Thursdays because of people's constraints. We've also played with starting times. I'm not going to let my schedule dictate anything unless I'm completely out because of a work commitment. I'll be where I need to be. But does anybody else have thoughts about, days of the week or start times? I sort of don't mind 7:30, but my personal circumstances aren't the same as everyone else's. So it's an open-ended question. Anybody? Meg?
I will just say I can never do the first Monday or first Tuesday of every month. So I would kindly ask that we not put a consistent meeting.
No, certainly not. I think we never do Tuesdays because, Chris, aren't those selectmen's
Select board, yeah.
days?
Yep.
So we Tuesday is kind of the
just throwing that out there.
No, that's fine. And I don't.
And as I was going to say, as the parent of a 3-year-old, I actually prefer later because 5:30 to 6:45 is a really stressful time in our house. But
I remember it well. I remember it well, but not fondly. So 7.
Well, it's a lot of fun. He was in here bugging me earlier, so.
I saw you were getting medical treatment. That was.
I did.
there's
If
a
we
HIPAA
need to
thing.
cut some bills, you know, I've got a soon-to-be doctor
I
in the
had-
house. He's very cheap.
Good to know. I had some HIPAA concerns, but we seem to be past that. So
It's all right. I love you all, know you all
any
well.
any other considerations, Mary?
So
Mary?
yes. So the school department meets on Wednesdays, but we could certainly meet on alternate Wednesdays to that. Is capital budget seems to be meeting on Mondays? Is that right? So would Wednesdays work for people?
It wouldn't work for me because I'm already scheduled out, but it's really up to you guys. I like Thursday the best because it's the end of the week, and especially for those who want to go to school board meetings and stuff. I think Thursday was the one that was best in the past for going on with other different departments in particular. But it's up to everybody else.
How about just without sort of, I don't think we're going to make final decisions on scheduling anything but the next meeting tonight. I just want to get some data in a non-open meeting violation kind of way. So just one last question. I'll ask the question and then Fran, I saw your hand, is about for times between 7 and 7:30. But Fran, you had your hand up?
No, any day is fine with me. Doesn't matter what
Fran?
day you have it on, but I just wouldn't have it earlier than later, to be honest with you. You know, old folks go to bed early.
Yeah, I think we'll probably end up staying in a lane, between, Thursdays mostly, maybe with a Wednesday here and there, and 7 with a 7:30 here and there.
Yep,
And we'll,
that'll work fine. That'll
I
be
don't
good.
think there's any reason to get too far. Pardon me, Frank?
No, that'll be fine. That'll work for me.
Okay, so I heard at least a couple of people in favor of putting a meeting on for the 18th, possibly with an executive session. Chris, would that work for you? Any other year, I'd say that's not a thing this year, so we may as well take advantage of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's fine. The select board's meeting that week anyway, so.
So why don't we tentatively say, and Helene had a time constraint, and I'm looking at making it a relatively brief meeting. So why don't we say Thursday the 18th at 7:30? Does anybody have yeses, nos, comments?
Good.
Hearing nothing. If everybody agrees, we'll meet on the 18th at 2:18 at 7:30. And Chris, I'll call you and sort of get up to speed on the stuff that Helene had been doing, primarily with meeting prep and agenda prep. And Mary, we'll include both of us in the agenda preparation part. So that I think gets us through calendar prep. Mary?
Just a quick question. If it might be great if on the 18th we could marrying our Thursdays with the ATM proposed meeting schedule, just come up with some dates that we then present to the board. Because I think more than anything, it is nice to know the meeting schedule 3 months out, or at least getting us.
That's what
I second that.
Yeah, no, that was my conception of what we would do. As part of this, finishing the scheduling part, because I think that works for everybody. I mean, I can keep, if it's on my calendar, I can try and shoo other things onto other dates. Naturally, as soon as it's on my calendar, I act other problems like a magnet, but that's just me. So we'll be fine. Good. All right. So we'll meet on the 18th, and one of the agenda items will be scheduling. Go ahead, Helene.
Oh, I think it's a great idea, especially after the presentations from the departments, so that you don't have this long meeting that you have to remember every single department. So as you get the clumps of departments presenting, then you could have a meeting hopefully soon after, so while it's fresh in your mind, so you can decide with that article, you know, especially with the warrant articles, if you can get that out of the way.
Yeah, I really want, you know, given that we have kind of a compressed schedule and a you know, town meeting that may have some very substantial questions, I want to make sure that we organize our meetings really targeting, you know, what we need to do and then backing into it to make sure that the meeting leads up to that thing. So if we are planning to hear board X, that we really have the motion in place and we're ready to talk about the vote that we are required by, you know, that's our function, which is to advise town meeting. So I'm looking forward to that. I think we've been efficient in the past. I think we can be efficient. I'm just a huge believer that any meeting that bleeds into its third hour is not optimal, but maybe.
I agree, and I think
see the school committee members shaking their heads. I know how that goes.
That ended at midnight. So many.
yeah, there's three of us here.
I know that, and my office represents about 20 school districts, so we're there all. You know, we had, you know, executive session will start at 11:30 this evening. You know, be on the call. It's great, but. Okay, so I think we've completed annual town meeting calendar preparation, in part by booting some of it to the 18th, but we'll come in prepared with a proposed calendar and some choices to make so we can do that efficiently. And that brings us, unless I missed anything, to approval of minutes. Is that correct? So Jean Dipple, thank you very much. I believe we have 2 sets of minutes to approve, or did I miss anything? Okay.
No, that's correct. One is for the executive session minutes that were November, so apologies for the lateness there. And then it was the last meeting that we had in January.
Well, here's an interesting question. Chris, I'm going to ask you for some expert advice here. Can we approve executive session minutes in open session? I don't think we can.
You know, it's, you know, I have read that, and you know, I have read some things that say you can. They still say executive session minutes because you have them. You're not talking about them, right? If you want to talk about them, you need to go to executive session.
All right, I'm willing
if everyone's
to
good with if everyone's good with them, then I think you can do it in open session. But again, I'm not playing.
No.
And if you're gonna have an executive session in 2 weeks anyway, you can always just do them then, just to be safe.
Yeah, that's my understanding, and that's how we've done in the past. If we have to have discussion, like Chris said, we cannot discuss it without executive session.
Okay, I think that's fair, and we're not waiving the confidential nature of the minutes by discussing them now. We're not waiving any privileges that may be embedded in them by discussing them now. And if we vote without if there's substantial discussion, we'll table the motion until our next executive session. Is everybody okay with that? Okay, so then can I have, I'm looking at executive session minutes for a meeting on November 19, which have been distributed. Has everybody had access to those?
Yes.
So then I guess the appropriate first step would be to invite a motion to approve those minutes.
Move to approve the minutes.
Second.
Fran, Lee, seconds. Now the question is a yes or no question. Does anybody want to have a substantive discussion about the content minutes? Hearing nothing.
Not substantive.
Jean?
She wasn't there.
Can I just say one thing?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. The only thing that I have to say is not really substantive. In the November 19th minutes, Susan Owen's last name was misspelled. So if we could just correct that before we approve them, whenever that happens.
I think that's okay. We'll take that as a, does everybody accept that as an amendment to the minutes that we're going to vote on? I don't think it needs a formal vote. I don't see Oh, I see. It's Susan Owens, in the second to last bullet point, shall be deemed to be Owens for the purposes of the approved minutes. Absent that, any other comment? Hearing none, we
Rob?
have a motion and a second. Go ahead, Meg.
Oh, I was just so you know, I'm going to abstain because I wasn't at the
Go ahead.
executive session.
Well, we have to do it by roll call anyhow. So
Yep, just
you
letting
saved
you
me from
know.
embarrassing myself by raising that point.
I think we still have
So,
a quorum, but I just wanted to let you know.
No. Oh, we absolutely have a quorum. So let's do that. I'll take the roll, and when the time comes, Meg, you just abstain. That's okay. So Gina Stino.
Aye.
Jean.
Aye.
Frank Collins.
Aye.
I got that. Aye. Jean Dipple.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Jenkins.
Lee Jenkins, aye.
Lee. Lee Lieb.
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick.
Aye.
Meg Wheeler.
I'm abstaining.
That's right. And Rob Hillman is an aye. Those minutes are approved. Chris, you're able to make sure that they go through whatever route they go to become executive session minutes rather than public minutes. Town hall takes care of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't file them yet. Yeah, just hold the filing for the time being.
Okay. Okay, Jean.
Yes.
Jean, Chris advises that we hold the filing of those for the time being. So if you could just maybe hold on to those and remind him and I at some point that, if we don't have them ready to go. Are you waiting for something in particular for the filing, Chris?
No, I just wanted to find out. I don't want them to accidentally get posted, so publicly. So I have to just ask Carol for the process. So because normally when we post executive session, they're done. They're not executive sessions anymore. We don't usually send them in to Carol until they're done, until they're not executive session anymore. So.
Oh, really? Okay. Gina Stino.
Can I just add to that comment that Chris just made? Until the subject matter that was discussed in the executive session is a done deal, you don't want to make them public.
Well, typically, you're absolutely right. I mean, typically boards will go through their executive session minutes periodically and decide what portions of them are made public. Now, since we don't make the kinds of decisions that involve, I mean, you know, we decide on advice we're going to give on collective bargaining, for example, but it's much more complicated with a school board or a board of selectmen, school committee or select board, because you have issues of privilege that may never expire. So you're absolutely right. That's excellent advice. The handling of executive session minutes is it's like clearing a minefield. You know, if you do it well, poorly, well, it's a bad day. So let's just hold those until we're instructed to file somehow. They need to continue to exist in some place. However, your office does it, Chris, just let us know and we'll submit them accordingly. So that brings us then to.
Can I just mention one thing?
Go ahead.
Yes. In the past, how we dealt with executive session minutes, we just wrote something very blah, you know, just general. We didn't go into detail like this. Chris, remember our executive session minutes had when we started, when we ended, and basically just the general, the general thing. It was very bland. It was like one sentence.
Well, maybe we'll think about that a little bit before our next executive session.
Chris, do you remember that? Can you hear me?
I haven't seen these, Helene, so I don't know.
No, in the past, remember they were one sentence.
Yeah, I don't think there's been a whole lot of executive sessions with you folks recently, though.
No, but in the past, they usually just were one sentence. And that's how, often things happen in the school board as well. Is that correct, Jean? They were like one sentence. I mean, it's great to have it specific like this, but it does then present the issue that it can't be then public.
Yeah, I think we'd probably want to take that on a case-by-case basis.
Right.
I'm a big believer in less is more in those kinds of things. When I briefly was the minute keeper for this board, mine read more like haiku, and I subsequently realized they're probably a little too thin. So Jean's were great. We'll talk amongst ourselves if there's something very sensitive about how to elide it, appropriate to our duties as a public board, but how to keep things in sort of the right scope. Can we move on to the January 7th minutes? Those were circulated by Jean as well.
Hey, Rob.
There were enough. Yes.
If I am in fact going to be
Yes,
the
Jean.
minute keeper, hi Rob. Hey, if I am in fact going to be the minute keeper, and you see how I write minutes, I think that it would be good to get some clarity before the next executive, or just some clarity generally, because I did go to the training that our council,
Yes.
Cohasset's council did, and I've got the PowerPoints and I took careful notes. And so I think there's a balance between, making sure that you're not too succinct, but you're appropriately reporting the topics. And so I think that I take the point, it's a balancing act, and I just want to make sure that, we're meeting our obligation.
Yes, and that's what I was thinking about when I said that. I tuned into that as well. Of course, I used to be partners with the guy for 23 years who was presenting it. So I had, a variety of reasons to tune in and have fun. But I thought Paul did an excellent presentation, and I think that he did, kind of articulate the balance between, what the requirements are, both in the letter and the spirit of the law. And I thought yours essentially were compliant with those guidelines that he gave. So, and as are these. So why don't we look at this January 7th set? If everyone's had them, there's a limited number of people who were present, so we'll probably have some additional abstentions.
Yeah.
But, can I have a motion?
I thought, by the way, Jean, the minutes and both the executive and this
Okay.
were excellent. And I make a motion to accept.
Great. So, yes. So, Lee, I see Lee Jenkins is a second. Is there any discussion of the January 7, 2021 minutes? Comments?
Fantastic.
Subtractions? Praise? I will take praise. Okay. Hearing no substantive alterations.
No one wants to do the minutes.
They're fantastic.
I get that.
Well, I'll take the role of I'll just take the entire role. Those who weren't there probably should abstain for approval. So, Gina Stino.
Abstain. I wasn't at the meeting.
Exactly. Fran Collins.
Aye.
Jean Dipple.
Aye.
Lee Jenkins.
Aye.
Helene.
Aye.
Lieb. Mary McGoldrick.
Abstain.
Meg Wheeler.
Abstain.
And Rob Hillman is an aye. So the ayes have it. They're approved. And Chris, should Jean go ahead and file those?
Yes.
Jane, do you know the process to submit minutes for, to the town?
No, but I think I'm about to learn it.
Yeah, Mary, go ahead.
So I made the mistake when I became the minute keeper with Meg last year to sending the minutes to Carol, and they will not get where they need to go. So you need to send them to Beth Anderson.
Okay.
And then there is a format. You'll put it in a PDF file. There's a format. I'll email that to you. Okay.
Thank you, Mary.
Thanks. Yeah, when I was the junior member, I did the same thing. There's a very specific email format, but I could, Mary, if you could send that to her, it's much more likely to be right. So thank you. Okay, so we have completed our obligations with respect to minutes. Topics not reasonably anticipated within 48 hours. I don't know of any. Anybody else have any? Nope. Hearing none. That
Just
brings
want to
us
make
to
sure everybody's safe. That's all.
yes, me too. So, good. All right. Well, then we have a meeting that we'll notice and circulate information about for the 18th. I guess adjournment is something that requires a motion, and of all things, a roll call vote. So do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
So moved.
Oh, please. Mary, second.
Second.
Meg, okay. Gina Stino,
Aye.
Fran Collins,
Frank Collins, aye.
Jean Dippold,
Aye.
Lee Jenkins,
Aye.
Lean Lieb,
Aye.
Mary McGoldrick,
Aye.
Meg Wheeler,
Aye.
and Rob Hillman, aye. So we stand adjourned. Thanks very much. I am perfectly happy if people have comments or improvements in the manner in which I run meetings. Call me, email me.